in Italian, envelope can be translated in two ways. One is the envelope, like the one that you sent through the post, and the envelope. And of course, they wrote it down as the thing that you sent through the post. In the Italian manual, generatore di buste. And I was looking at it, what? I'm not going to the post office. I'm trying to make music. What does that mean? So it's like that was the level. It's a true story, man. In collaboration with Zoom, the makers of the Q2N 4K camera.
Hi Claudio, welcome to MIDI Talk.
Hi Simone, how you doing, my man?
I'm great, thank you. And you?
Yeah, great. It's a beautiful, gorgeous day here in London, so I'm enjoying it.
In Italy as well, a very sunny day.
Awesome.
So Claudio, thank you for being here. This is the first episode of MIDI Talk, and is a podcast about making music creation, but in particular we are talking about the relationship between music and technology. We are having chats with musicians, creators, artists all around the world, technicians, talking about their experience. And what was the role of technology in their profession, and what happened? I am very happy and glad that you are the first one joining MIDI Talk.
I'm very, very excited. I'm very excited, very honored. Thank you for the invitation, and also thank you so much for sending this Zoom camera. It looks amazing.
Yeah, this is great. I'm using a Zoom camera here as well, and we are doing a great footage. A very good choice.
So, what can I answer for you, my dear?
So, please, Claudio, we know each other, but I would like that you introduce yourself and tell something about your musical career and path. So then we can start with the question, and when technology then makes a role and in your experience.
Sounds great. Well, I have developed an interest for music at a very young age. My mom reports that by the time I was like 3 or 4, I was climbing to my brother's Bontempi organ. Remember those ones? What? It wasn't even an organ. Actually, it was like a melodica with a fan underneath. So it was like super basic, but for whatever reason, for my brain was wired up, I just resonated with it, and I kept on doing it. So and also growing up, I mean, when I was like 7 or 8, I already would play with record players and cassette tape recorders. At around 9, I think I did my first multi-track experience, using like a boombox. Well, it wasn't a boombox back then. It was my father's hi-fi system, and I also had like a dictaphone. Yeah. So I would, record on one and then swap cassettes, play it back, and record both things at the same time. Of course, by the time I did it the 4th time, it was just a big shh, as you can imagine. But yeah, my fixation with music goes back to that. So then it was just fortuitous. Just serendipitous, I should say, that my piano teacher was also a film composer, and and because I was much into it, basically she gave me a chance to work with in recording studios. Wow. I want to leave though the technical aspects of it for your questions coming later on. So, so basically, in my 20s, I was working with pop music. I got my degree in orchestra at the Grove School of Music in Los Angeles, and then basically up until I was 30, I worked with Italian pop music, playing for all the Italian pop stars that you can think of. And then when I was 30, I decided that I was tired of making good money for bad music. And, and I decided to switch things around,
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that's a common thing for an artist. When I speak with other artists that, for example, made a famous hit, then there are their fans when they play and replay every time the same hits, and when they come out with another new album, there's always a comparison with the first one. So it's a difficult part for an artist to being tired, I think, to the same old story and to try to make something new.
100%. I mean, that sort of feeling. I mean, of course, I'm joking. When I say bad music, the thing is that at some point, it just feels that you are pigeonholed into, like, for example, in Italy, I was quite successful with this Sanremo thing, which is like super duper important in Italy. People in the industry take a lot of interest in that. So I was kind of typecast as the Sanremo producer, the one who can do like the big power ballads with real orchestra and all of that. And you eventually go tired of it because you want to explore. Having said that, I disagree that musicians should feel bad when having to play their famous hits over and over and over again. Look at Stevie Wonder. He can play Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours. It's probably the 10,000th time that he sings that. But he still has that sort of inspiration. So as much as I feel exactly what you said, I think it's a trap for musicians. If you have a hit, please pay respect, keep on playing it. If people want to hear it, just play it to them. Then play some new stuff, and keep on being inspired, because otherwise you die inside. So it is a game of balance. And for me, coming to London when I was 30 meant just I want to explore new music, talk to different people, and then of course, I mean, it took me like a number of years before I could get any closer to the level of professional recognition that I had in Italy. So of course it's not for the faint of heart, but music to me is innovation, is the strive for excellence, if I dare to say so. There you go.
We could spend hours and hours talking about that.
We actually usually do.
So let's move forward. So you moved to London and you started a new path. And so what are you doing right now, and what are you focusing right now?
So basically, I kept on looking to be the pop producer that I was in Italy, just because that was making me a living. And I tried, but that wasn't exactly working, to be honest with you. Just because, to be honest, I didn't have the stature to say something relevant to this particular music scene. I didn't even have the right background. I mean, if I would go to a club and play music, they would call for a jam, for a song that I did not know, because in the clubs in Italy, it was different jams that we used to play. So even my background did not match. So I wasn't able to produce significant. I tried to work with 19 Management, which at the time did Britain's Got Talent. And I tried to go to that path. I tried to write for them. They said they liked it, but it didn't really work. So in the end, I found a job as an in-house producer for a techno label, and that was really good because I worked there for quite some time. I was, earning some decent money. But more than anything, I was opened up to the way Britons make music, especially in the electronic scene.
Yeah.
So although I used to kind of say, house music for me was synonymous with, Sabrina Salerno, boys. It's like, or cheesy stuff like that. But now all of a sudden I was introduced to very interesting music and very interesting ways of making music. So that kind of gave me an inspiration to say, you know what, I really, really want people to dance to my music. I want it to be clever and I want it to be jazz and sophisticated, but I still want to be able to dance to it. And that's when I started Sunlight Square.
I see.
This thing. And that was the name of that was my address, 49 Sunlight Square. Place in East London, and so I named the project after it, and I went my own way, started making record after record after record. I managed to get Steve Gadd on one of my records just because of the people that I knew in the business. So but I never stopped working as a producer. I just decided at some point I'm gonna divide the two things. And so the stuff that I was doing commercially, professionally, was called drmix.com.
Yeah.
And my personal output as an artist would be Sunlight Square. So and then at some point both things started to work. And that led me to become more involved with videos in order to try and get more clients. And to get, and that, so nowadays, basically, the Dr. Mix and the Sunlight Square keep all of us busy. I have, I lead a team of 6, including me. And I do lots of videos, as you know, from the Dr. Mix channel. And I'm going towards half 1,000,000 subscribers.
Yeah, almost there.
almost there. So yeah, it's really interesting also to see what kind of opportunity that presents.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm in a very good place, honestly. So yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can tell that when you were talking about your experience in new music genre, like in techno music in UK, you talk about that you had the possibility to merge your previous knowledge in a different music background and culture with another culture and create something new, something fresh. And this is what also I did in my design career, because I wasn't born as a musical instrument designer. I started to design business software. I designed websites. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So it wasn't my call for life, of course, but in a moment of my life, I bought some flagship product, hardware musical instrument products. It was for a while that I did not play keyboards, and I just analyzed the user experience of that interfaces of those instruments, and I found that there was a huge gap in the level of the interface and the product of that time compared to the consumer products. And what I studied in building business software or a website, it was an interesting background, an interesting knowledge that I could apply to the musical instruments design. So that was the point where I started, and I started creating something new with a different, a fresh approach.
Oh, you know what? I actually wanted to ask you about this because although now you're working back to Italy, we met here in London as you were working for Rolly, right?
Yeah, correct.
So
Yeah,
how did that come about?
Well, as I told you, I was working in a company making business software, and in my free time, I started to build small project. I started design some music apps for iPad. At that time, the iPad was pretty new, and I found very interesting that new touch surface being used for musical applications. For me, it was really interesting, and I didn't have any connection in the music industry, and I found a MIDI application called S1 MIDI Trigger that was on the Apple Store, and I found room for improvement in that UI. I wrote to the developer of this MIDI application, and his name is Shuiki Miura. Is now a friend of mine, and we started working together on his application. And I redesigned the new version of that app. It was a MIDI controller like Lemur or Touch.
Lemur, I remember that.
Lemur, yeah. We basically built this new app, and I went to the music messe in Frankfurt with my iPad, showing that app to everyone in the industry. In that occasion, I met Jordan Rudess. That
was the moment you met him. Okay, got it. Because you've been friends with him for quite some time, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we met in that occasion, and then we started working together because Jordan Rudess has a software company called Wisdom Music that builds music apps for iOS and especially iPad. Jordan is one of the pioneers of making music apps on touch surfaces, and starting working with him and starting getting a lot of knowledge and information from Jordan and building apps with him helped me to enter in the world of music industry. And I was introduced also to Rolly from Jordan himself, that was working as a consultant with Rolly. I began to work on the Rolly Seaboard project, designing the Equator synth, that is the main synth that is capable to manage the multidimensional interface of the Rolly Seaboard.
You know what I like about your story? A lot of people tend to think that in order to achieve any form of success in the music industry, you just need to be discovered by somebody. The truth is that for the majority of people that I know who are now recognized in the business, such as yourself, it's always a story of just getting up and try to do it yourself. I mean, literally backpack, go to conferences and start meeting people. And I could not be a bigger advocate for this, because people, I mean, we all want to be loved. We all want to be recognized by the industry. But the thing is that you have to first figure out what the industry needs and then invent something that wasn't there before that fulfills that need. And that's exactly what you've done, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I tried, learn from mistakes, learn new lessons. You learn if something doesn't work, but it's important that you automatically and quickly have a new plan to find your path to achieve what you're looking for. So it's a matter of networking, of course. I started to meet online because Facebook and LinkedIn or Skype really helps. I could meet new people from all around the world every day. When I was building my network, I started to having chat and conversation with almost everyone. And with after 1,000 people, I can say that maybe 10 of them can give you the real insights or help you to make that step towards your goals, your ambition. Yeah.
Sorry, I mean, you mentioned that you bought like a flagship instrument. What was that?
It was the Core Kronos, and also I bought the older Roland Phantom G7, G8. It's not the current Phantom. And I mean that they are great instruments. Of course, they have huge sound engines and they are great, but the user interface and experience is an experience of 300 pages of manuals. It's it's an experience of going into a forum, asking questions. My dream is to build an instrument that does not need a manual to be played. So in 2007, when Apple designed and built the iPhone, for the first time they made a product that doesn't need a manual. So I think that for the music industries we really need instruments that are going to that kind of experience.
100%. Listen, I'm gonna interject some music here.
Yeah, thanks.
So look, I've got this baby here, which
what is
this is a Roland VP550. It's a keyboard from the 90s.
Wow, I have it.
You had it?
No, I had it in the past. Yeah.
All right, cool.
That is a great instrument.
I am just blown away by this. I'm just gonna play for just 1 second.
Yes, please.
Whoa. Yeah. Oh yeah. How amazing is that? Amazing, right? I should never attempt to sing gospel ever. But check out, man. Wow, right?
Wow, that is amazing. Really. I obviously I cannot play like you did, but I really enjoyed in that instrument also the expressivity, because with your voice you can reach really a deep range of expressivity, because the voice is connected strictly, very tight.
It's the most physical musical instrument I can think of, and this is something that you guys do really well with the Swarm engine, because of course the limitations of the keyboard, the dynamics and controllers sometimes can feel a bit restrictive. But when you get it just right, like you guys did, you get these instruments that have this incredible range. And when they sound quiet, they sound really quiet and nice. When you go in the mid-range, you start feeling the power of it. And when you hit like high dynamics, it sounds nice and full and it fills the room. And it's interesting. There are I mean, I think we've talked about this before. What was your first instrument? We can go back to that question if you want. But if I think of the instruments that I have used over the years, they were always instruments that would give me a lot of dynamic control. And that would sound interesting at any dynamic. Like, for example, for a long time, we didn't have decent piano sounds. I mean, let's face it, up until, when sampling became, more available and less expensive.
Yeah.
We could, but otherwise, pianos would be like the best thing that you could get was the RD 500 by Roland, right?
Yeah.
Which did not sound like a piano too much. It sounded okay, and the sound was a little bit unnatural. But the amount of expressivity that you could get out of it was off the charts. Didn't sound like a real piano, but it was a very interesting sound. Lucio Dalla in Italy used it on every record. Live, you couldn't use anything else because that was the standard. Then it fortunately became a bit smaller. They did the 250. I've used the 250 extensively. Then it became the P330, small rack form factor. That worked fantastic. I used to use it with a Fatah, the Studio 88, which was a master keyboard. Very well, very nice keyboard, and it came with a case. And so when instruments are well built, you can play them on stage and you can entertain. You can be quiet, you can be subtle, you can be aggressive, and it always feels nice. Like when I use the Swamp Trumpet, for example.
Thank you very much.
I gotta make more videos about it, man. I'm really obsessed with the thing. Really obsessed with it.
Yeah, you made a very interesting point. You had a very interesting point because talking about the relationship between the sound quality and the behavior and the control that you have. Because I remember that there are a lot of musicians that sometimes on stage they have to perform a saxophone solo, for example, and they cannot do that with a sample saxophone. So they choose, for example, to use a Moog sound or something that they can shape and modulate, giving the same realism, the same intention of the saxophone solo. I think that this is the point. Even if the sound is not close, but the behavior it is stronger than having a better sound but with less control, I think.
100%. In fact, one of the instruments that because I was always trying to find instruments that made me sound like me, because of course, I mean, when you go back to pop music in Italy at that time, you need a piano, you need a pad, you need a piano pad. So, the typical choice would be Roland RD something for the piano, and then, whatever synthesizer you could find, for some nice pad and things like that. But because I also had a passion for jazz and contemporary jazz, I always kept an eye on more expressive instruments. And David Sanchez, I don't know if you remember the keyboard player. He used to play with Zucchero at the time. With Sting, yeah. And he had the Yamaha KX88 with the BC2 controller, and he used it for to control a TX802 rack version of the DX7, or maybe it was the TX816, which was eight DX7s in one rack. And and with the breath controller, basically controlling the cutoff.
Yeah.
he had one of the most amazing sounds ever. So I dived into it. I got myself a KX5, like Chicoria. I put that, and I used I think it was a DX7 that I had at the time, or maybe TX 802 or something, and then I started doing that. And the next step was the Yamaha VL1, which, you know, compared to what to what the Swarm engine does nowadays, it was like super crude. It was like not even comparable. But the expressivity, the principle was so big that there was at some point where I was kind of known for using that instrument and the vocoders. Because the vocoders, if you had a microphone and you play a piano, you could go, ooh, and they would do like a pad.
Yeah.
So I had found this combination where I had my BC2 here, and I could play the piano, do my thing, then take my BC and use another keyboard and comp myself doing that. That gave me a unique and super expressive sound, which of course nowadays I can do with much better technology.
Yeah.
But still, you know, that was a very good thing for me, because I did get a lot of work, because I knew, for that reason I got to play with the Ottavo Nano in-house band, the Saturday night show on national TV in Italy, and I use also a theremin. So I always was trying to find expressive instruments and expressive technology that would allow me to be more spectacular and more dynamic when playing.
Yeah. Now that's really interesting, because you are giving me also more and more. You are confirming me many of ideas and feedbacks that we received during the years. But what was the first piece of technology that changed your approach to music? It was the Roland VP 550, or it was anything else?
I think we have to go back a bit. I think we have to go back a bit, and look what I do.
Wow.
This one is a Krumar Stratus, and it was made by Krumar, of course, which is exactly where you guys are, in the same area.
Yeah, we have two offices. One, I live next in the area of Krumar, Fatar, but also Farfisa area, and the HQ is near Milan. Yeah.
So for the people who may not know, in Italy there is this sort of the Silicon Valley of music.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
Which is in the Ancona area, Castelfidardo. That's where all keyboard, but also accordions manufacturers were.
Absolutely.
And still are. Yeah. And so, you know, I mean, let's face it, Italy is synonymous with music, and if that's so, then the area of Ancona, Castelfidardo is synonymous with Italian musical instruments. Also, you know, with respects to violins, you know, all the orchestral instruments, it still happens there, right?
Yeah, of course, violin makers are the most famous area is Cremona in Italy, right? The place of Stradivari, and
right.
But of course, I can go to easily here to a Luther workshop and get some materials, but also it is nice because you can see in the back I have some stuff that I can collect from my friends that are violin makers. They explain me how they made that. I can see before they close the violin, how it looks, and
Yes.
day by day they are removing the wood to make it lighter and flexible. So it's a real interesting trip.
Fantastic. So this synthesizers were made in Italy. This specifically is a 6-voice synthesizer, and this is the first synthesizer I've ever had. And I must have been, I want to say 12 or 13. In Italy, if you wanted to get like one of the expensive, because at this point we were like at the big early 80s, right? Because I was born in 1972, so this must have been 83 or 84, something like that. And of course, if you wanted to buy Oberheim, right, you would have to get it shipped from the United States. At the time we had the lira, which was a lot less powerful than the US dollar. So something like this would cost you a fortune. And, I mean, I didn't come from a wealthy family. I mean, my father was doing okay. He had a good job in an office, but we were far from rich. So
yeah, I think that the price was close to buy a car.
For Oberheim.
For
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No question. This one was expensive, yes, but it wouldn't break the bank. So it was there at a local shop. I would go there, play it, and at some point, my dad for my birthday said, "You know what? I'm gonna give it to you as a." He gave it to me as a surprise. I came back from school, and there it was. And this is a 6-voice synthesizer. It sounds alright. It's not incredible, but it sounds okay. And but this is the first synthesizer where I learned cutoff, resonance, attack, decay, sustain and release, waveforms, synchron, all of that stuff. This is where I learned how to use a synthesizer. Literally this machine.
So your first approach was about discovering how to tweak those parameters, how to shape the sound. What was your first? What was the first thought that you had when you start playing and tweaking with kind of that instrument?
Right. I mean. The thing is that I was into electronic music because, I mean, you have to imagine as a kid raised in the 70s, we had gone to the moon just in 1969, right? And the space program was incredible. During the 70s, we went to the moon like several times. And in 1979, we had the Skylab, which was literally the first orbiting station. So there was a lot of inspiration by space and by what was futuristic, and in that respect, I was very much influenced by electronic music. Of course, I was an early fan of the Kraftwerk. They appeared at Domenica Inn. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was for the people who don't know. It was the Sunday show in Italy. I mean, at the time there were like 3 channels, maybe 2 channels. And on the Sunday afternoon they would do this long live, and the Kraftwerk came about, and it was 1978, and they were dressed as robots with lots of makeup, and they performed this "We Are the Robots." And I lost it. I completely lost it. And I crucified my mother to get me the album. and which she gave up eventually, and she bought it for me. And then also there were the Rockets, this French band of like electronic rock prog kind of thing. So I always had this sort of sounds of synthesizer in my head. And in my ears. I never really knew how they did it. There was no information at the time. Correct. I mean, it's not like now, it's like you go on the internet, on Wikipedia, there you go. All you need to know about it. At the time, it was something on the TV. You would have to cross your fingers, go to the record shop, literally tell him about this band, literally tell her about this song, And if you were lucky, they would give it to you because they had it.
Yeah.
And that was correct. The extent of it. So I had my piano because incidentally, I started studying piano when I was about 9. So I did have like a rental piano at my place, and that was the deal back then. You would pay a certain little amount of money a month, and they would give you a piano from Ciampi in Rome.
Yeah, it's very famous.
Yeah. And so I had no conception, except when I went to this little shop near to my house. There was this keyboard. I had no idea what it was. I was just moving stuff around, and it would make this incredible synthetic sounds, and I was blown away. And my dad gave it to me, and that's where I really started literally reading the manual, which was translated in Italian badly. In Italian, envelope can be translated in 2 ways. One is the envelope, like the one that you sent through the post, and the envelope. And of course, they wrote it down as the thing that you sent through the post. In the Italian manual, generatore di buste. And I was looking at it, what? I'm not going to the post office. I'm trying to make music. What does that mean? So it's like that was the level. It's a true story, man. Can you imagine me trying to figure out analog synthesis, subtractive synthesis?
With envelopes. Yeah, that's incredible. So
and that opened up the gates to electronic music, and then of course I started also building my own mixer, wiring up stuff with my father used to love DIY. So he had, solder, iron, the whole shebang. So I started as well building some stuff because, of course, didn't have too much money. So building was part of it. And then of course, my brother got a computer, my older brother, for Christmas time, a few years later. And not a few years, maybe 1 or 2 years later. And it was the Commodore VIC-20. Not even the Commodore 64, the Commodore VIC-20.
Oh.
So,
yeah.
You had it? Did you have it?
No, only the 64. But
you only had the
I was
64,
dreaming
right.
about it.
Right, exactly. So then we learned Cubase. I wish. We learned BASIC. And, I was using the register to open and close oscillators because it had its own little synthesizer. And I started making programs to make music. So that gave me like a familiarity and a geekiness that later was instrumental. The moment that my piano teacher, who I said before, used to do also film scoring, and she also did advertising. And she said, hey, listen, I know that you are into computers and programming and stuff. Can you come to a session? Because they have a drum machine. I don't know how to program it. And I was like 14. And so I went. And the owner of the studio said, are you free tomorrow? And I said, actually, I'm going to school. Well, that's in the morning. Are you free in the afternoon? Yeah. Well, come again in the afternoon. And that's how I began. And by the time I was 18, I already had a number of clients I used to program for, and I went full time, and I became a studio rat by the time I was 18. So that's how that instrument changed my life.
I see. Now that's really interesting. So I can see that the role of technology, computers, has started from the beginning in your music career. So
it just so happens, it's like it's just serendipitous, It's like maybe if my cousin came to me with a tape from the Genesis, then, or I don't know, from Pink Floyd or whatever, then maybe my my musical path would have been completely different. But it just didn't happen. You know, it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, there are some crossroads.
Yeah.
Things that happen, you resonate with something, and that thing changes the path of your life. Do you have anything like that happened to you at a young age in that respect? I mean, you must have been got into computers at some point somehow. Was that the Commodore 64 that did that for you?
Yeah, the Commodore 64, was for me, yes, the first computer that I had, and it was like you said, in the 80s, we thought that the technology could have no limitation. So we during the 80s there was Back to the Future, so we thought that in 2020 or 15, I don't remember, we had flying cars. So that was the mood of that age. So I was totally attracted by computers and technology. The first time I combined the music and technology was when I bought an Atari computer, and I connected with that MIDI port to a Roland JD 800.
Ooh, so you had the ST512?
1024 maybe.
Okay, the ST, not the Mega one.
Yeah, the ST. Yeah. As you know, the information wasn't so accessible like today. So I had my music keyboard teacher that helped me in suggesting me new instruments to try, new keyboards. So I bought magazines to know what the bands were using at that time. And when I bought the Roland JD800, there were in the back side of the panel the memory cards to store your user sounds, to expand the internal memory, and they were pretty expensive. So my teacher told me, why not, how about buying a computer? So with MIDI you can record the system exclusive MIDI dump and store your sounds without the need of buying the memory card, but you will unlock a new possibility with the computer. So I had the Cubase, on the first version of Cubase on that computer, and I started building the first multi-track experience, not audio multi-track but MIDI multi-track experience.
Wow. So you were involved with sysax quite early.
Yeah.
No, I remember my friend had a Korg DW8000. Remember that one? It was like an analog, digitally controlled analog. And that was my first introduction to sysax, because if you wanted to save your banks, you could do it either through tape, but tape was like, not super reliable, you remember. And sysax was a lot better. So wow. I miss my Atari, man. I miss it.
Yeah, I think that I will end up to rebuy it again.
It is kind of what I am doing. I mean, at this stage, that's exactly what I'm doing. Like I'm buying all my old pieces of technology. I mean, my next synthesizer, I got a D50.
Oh wow.
And then of course, I mean, at the time, it's not like I could get a lot. So what I tend to do is I would, use the synthesizer, and then when it would become old because the sounds were kind of out of fashion, I would sell that, put some money on top of it and try to get the next thing, which means I had a lot of instruments in my life, but I didn't necessarily keep all of them. The most important ones, like my first synthesizer, this one, I would never, this was like a gift from my dad.
Yeah.
It's like I would never get rid of it.
It's not only a musical instrument, it's a gift. Yeah, totally.
It has that value for me. But otherwise, it was inevitably, I wasn't wealthy enough that I could keep all these instruments. I had to give them.
Yeah.
I had to give some away because otherwise I wouldn't have enough money to get the next one.
Yeah, or also room, because sometimes it's not
All
just
room. All room.
Yeah. We are talking about also MIDI, and
Yes.
MIDI had a deep impact in music. It's interesting to tell what MIDI made possible and what MIDI makes possible also today, because right now I can see that there are a lot of people that are still not familiar with all the possibilities of MIDI. So I can tell that we are building not only instruments, but we are making a powerful live performance manager that is called Camelot. And Camelot is one of the deepest MIDI router and manager that is available on the market, maybe ever made without.
There's no question about this.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting to explore just a little bit what happened when MIDI
Came about.
came out, yeah, and what are the possibility now after 30 years, 35 years?
Yeah, I mean, MIDI, it's the embodiment of what it means for electronic instruments to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Because up until that point, you would communicate between one synthesizer and the next via CV gates.
Yeah.
I patch a cable, I put this voltage, and that voltage will mean a certain note. And gates is simply, this is the note, control voltage, and this is the gate. If it's plus 5 volts, bang, open it. If it's 0, close it. Huge limitations. Now, MIDI comes about thanks to
Dave Smith and Roger Lean.
So yeah, it was literally a collaboration between, I guess, Sequential Circuits and who? Oberheim, was it?
Oberheim also, yeah.
The first two companies to agree on, okay, let's use this standard. So now, from now on, we had this cable that would tell what notes were being played, with what velocity the key was being struck, and a whole bunch of controllers from 0 to 127 that you could use to send control voltages, but as digital information. Basically.
Correct.
So that meant that whilst I was playing my synthesizer and triggering the internal sound of the synthesizer, now I could put a MIDI cable, give it to another synthesizer, and without having to play that, now I could get that sound in unison with what I was playing here. But also the problem is that you would have them in cascade. So daisy chain. And of course, there was a little bit of delay. So the first time that I started using this technology for live, now you have to play strings on this bit, you have to play piano on this bit, you have to play whatever. So all of a sudden, I had the problem, how do I recall all the program changes? Program changes, another MIDI instruction. The changing moment was a machine called MIDI Temp. MP44, which is a 1-unit rack, 8 in, 8 out, disc in front, and you had like a remote control, which was a matrix. So you could tell whatever comes in from this port, this channel, you put it to this port, this channel. It cost a lot, man. Man, that thing was expensive. But by that time, I had a 24 rack full of TX802, D550, EX8000, sampler from EMU. Like I had a lot of stuff by this stage. And that worked well, but it was incredibly cumbersome. Jump 30 years down the line, and now there is Camelot, which not only does that, but also runs whatever soft synth you want inside of it. I mean, how do you approach this from a designer's standpoint? How do you even start building a piece of software like that?
Just observing observing people performing with their different gears and switching sound manually or using very complex and tech setup, observing that there are people annotating the number of each program to select for each song on different keyboards. So the goal is the same. The way, the tools that you use can be different depending on technology. So now that we are living in a moment that is possible of doing that with an iPad, with hopefully soon with an iPhone, with a laptop, of course. So I think that we should be able to spend less time being worried about what can go wrong, and having more time and playing more relaxed to perform better, to having a connection with the audience. So this is the vision and the spirit of that. And then the idea was to combine different technologies all together, a huge MIDI architecture, a huge MIDI framework working in the background, but also VST and virtual instruments hosting features, PDF, music score attachment, visualization, and now backing tracks, automation, in the future light controls, video playback. So we want to make easy the life of the musician, but also to build easily a show with a low budget.
Yeah, because I mean, one thing that I really appreciate is like, I mean, and this makes me a little bit proud of being Italian. I am aware of the extremely high level of craft that Italians can deliver. You know, the work that you guys are doing, which is on one side pushing the boundaries of what's possible to do with technology. We should mention Stefano.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Stefano Lucato, he creates the Swarm technology. So similarly with what we started with Camelot, but many years ago, he was struggling with ideas of making new instruments capable of overcoming the limitation, the shortcomings of the sample-based instruments. And then Stefano made, with the help of Emanuele Paravicini, the first version of the Swan saxophone that is the first of a series of solo instruments that are capable of extremely realistic results.
Yeah.
And but with the idea of challenging the technology, with the idea of breaking some rules. So there are people that are still today convinced that it's impossible to have a realistic sound with the modeling instrument, that only the sample-based technology is the only technology that can give us, and with that idea in mind, Stefano can break the rules. And now
without breaking rules, you cannot really obtain progress, can you?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But also, you guys then produce things like Camelot, which purpose is to eliminate friction. Camelot wants to reduce the friction of a musician having to perform with multiple instruments, which is a reality of many of us.
Yeah.
So that makes me proud of being Italian, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
It's true. I mean, it's like, I was talking to Dom, who should be guest on the show at some point, right? Dom Sigalas.
Yeah.
Will he?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right, cool. So yeah, it was calling me, man, horns really well. I'm having to do this sort of horn arrangement. What can I use? What sample library can I use? And I went, dude, have you tried the Swarm engine? Oh, right. Yeah, maybe I should. Yeah, maybe you should. And inevitably the comments that I get are, oh my God. Really? Is that possible to do that? I told you. So yeah, that is like really groundbreaking stuff, and I'm really curious to see the extent to all that's gonna happen with this technology that you guys are developing. I'm really excited. Can't wait to see what you guys put up next.
Yeah. We will come with new interesting stuff for sure. Claudio, it's really incredible how long we can go on with. But I think that maybe it's time to wrap up a little bit. Maybe I would like to ask you a question about if you were in a desert island.
Oh.
And you could bring only one instrument or a piece of gear. What would you choose?
I'm gonna say, okay, I have power. I have solar power.
Yeah.
You know that's something that I need. I would probably get a synthesizer that allows me to make music, like a workstation, probably. Like a workstation. At this stage, my two favorite workstations have to be the Yamaha Motif and the Roland Phantom.
I see.
So I would be happy with any of those two because they're both incredible in slightly different ways. In my view, in terms of what they excel at, I think that the Roland Phantom excels a little bit more with electronic sounds, and the Yamaha excels a little bit more with acoustic sounds. Having said that, you can really squeeze both of them to whatever sound you like. So it would have to be one of those two. I would probably go Ambarabachichikoko and choose one. Yeah.
Cool. Claudio, what can I say? Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being our guest of MIDI Talk. I hope you enjoyed this chat as I enjoyed, and I hope everyone will enjoy this talk.
Absolutely. You know, it's a pleasure. I mean, we talk like this quite often anyway, so it's always a pleasure when I get to talk with you, you know, and geek out. This is bliss. Thank you so much for having me, in fact.
Thank you very much, and see you soon, everyone, for the next MIDI Talk episode. Ciao.
Bye.